Hello and welcome to the Weekend Eve, sports fans. I am Brian Crest, the Awesome Voice, and this is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Across from me is my brother with another mother, Darwin Penny, Coach 24. How are you doing this evening, sir?
It's a great day to be back in the saddle again with your voice.
Awesome. That'll work. Last time we were together, I was shooting horrible at golf. Oh, my gosh. 121 I shot. And then you shot pretty good. So, anyway, behind the scenes, running the show, DJ Scatter, George Walker. How are you doing, Mr. Walker?
Hey, everything's going great. Super fantastic.
And tonight, we have a guest. And he is actually the reason why Coach 24 and I are together doing a show together, Mr. Marvin Durant. He was the producer of the sports show Sports Disciples on 100.5, which ironically we are also on 100.5, same radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you doing this evening, sir?
I am doing well. Good to be with you. It's been a while. Good to see Coach 24. I haven't seen him since his Urban Youth Academy days. I've heard a lot about Mr. Walker, all good things. And more importantly, it's good to be back in this building.
So explain what your relationship to this building is.
At one point in time, this building was the home of the Milton Moore Elementary School.
Oh.
And this is where I went to elementary school.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
my gosh. So just a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, just a couple. I'm sure you can find some things that I've written in the bathroom if you look very carefully.
So that's awesome. So explain how we were doing our show, how you got him to come on our show.
Okay, I was the program director of, at that time, Urban Talk 100, and we wanted to have the leader of the Urban Youth Academy on our show to talk about all of the things that were going on. At that particular time, Darwin was the executive director, so we had him on the show. Actually, we had him on the show 2 times, if I remember, and so that's how our association came to be with him.
Right, absolutely. And I believe our show was on Monday and Thursday.
You and I did Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Right.
Yes, and I did the show Tuesday and Thursdays. Actually, Tuesday and Thursdays were hosted by Carlos Johnson, better known as A1.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I believe Darwin was on the show either Monday or Wednesday. I don't think it was Friday. But it was Wednesday, and it was the week of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum Hall of Game ceremonies.
Yes.
And this was in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
which J.R. Richards was inducted.
Yes.
And that was the main reason why I wanted to go. I wanted to meet him.
You
He
did.
was a phenomenal player when I was watching him and Nolan Ryan. And I believe that had he not had the stroke in 1980, it would have been the Houston Astros and not the Philadelphia Phillies
Right.
that the Royals would have played in the World Series.
Right,
So,
exactly.
but I did get to meet him. It was incredible. I totally enjoyed it very much. And so I had a date. We were in there. We were trying to get in and pay for our tickets and everything. And this, the woman that was in charge, she was telling us that we couldn't do this or this. And so we were standing in line, and all of a sudden I turn around, and there's Darwin with his wife, Maria. And so we start talking, and I guess she started taking care of somebody else. And then I tried to turn back around, and she goes, "Well, you need tickets." And I was like, "Well, I want to buy a ticket." And they said you couldn't buy a ticket. So Maria jumped up and said, "No, we got plenty of tickets." So she gave us 2 tickets. So we got to go in, and we got to meet everybody, and we had dinner. And they had the dinner in the museum part where Satchel Paige and all the statues of the players were there. And so we sat down with Darwin and Maria, and then they kicked us out. but the good part of that is that I got to sit with Amos Otis. So it was one good thing, and it became another good thing.
Which was one of our best interviews that we ever had.
Yes, absolutely. And I still have his phone number. I'm going to try to give him a call sometime and see maybe if he will come on our show, through phone and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. I really loved it. And I couldn't believe he gave me his phone number. He goes, "You just can't you can't show it to nobody."
Right.
And to this day, nobody has seen it. My parents, my best friends, Darwin, I mean, everybody, nobody has seen it. So, Amos, when I give you a call, definitely do that. So that was one of the greatest moments in my life. So, I loved all that. And I really appreciate everything you've done for me, because you were the first step in me doing my radio shows.
Right.
If it was not for you, I would probably still be sitting at home trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Well, thank you for that. You and I worked together on the old Kansas City Soul broadcast.
Yes,
You were the play-by-play guy. I did pregame, halftime, postgame, and analysis. So yeah, that was fun times.
Absolutely. And a few weeks ago, Jan Hanley was on our show.
I heard him. Yes.
Yes. So yeah,
And we had the weekly show with Jan.
Yes, we did. We did. And he's told me that anytime that we would love to have him on the show, he would come on the show. Except for the last time, his wife, I guess, gave him some honeydew list and told him where he was going to go. So he said, "It was either you or my wife." And I was like, I lost out?
If I remember, she's a tough cookie. She was a referee, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Basketball referee.
Yes.
So, yes. And she's a phenomenal woman. Mm-hmm. So, I love them both. They're one of my favorite couples. So, but yeah. So, let's get into sports. So, right now, the World Series is happening tomorrow. You have 2 teams that you really did not expect to be in there. I was, when Darwin and I did our predictions, I picked Houston and I picked Philadelphia. As much as I hated to pick Philadelphia, I picked Philadelphia. And sure enough, it ended up being Texas and Arizona at the last moment, and they did things that has never happened in Major League Baseball history. The first one is that both teams won Game 6 and Game 7 on the road. Never happened before in history. Now, I know that a few times it's probably happened to one or the other, but not both. And the other, 174 wins. Arizona has 84. Texas had 90. And that is the lowest win total for 2 teams in the World Series. So what is your asset on this World Series? I know you picked Texas.
Well, I think at the end of the day, Texas was able to get their pitching lined up properly. Uvalde was outstanding during the series. Garcia came alive and was the most dominant player in the series. And they did just enough to quiet the Houston bats when they needed to. And it was ironic that both of Uvalde's wins came in Houston where he's from, that area just down the street in Alvin, Texas, which was also the home of Nolan Ryan. So
there you
there's
go.
a lot of Texas ties there, but they are solid. It's not always when you how hot you are, but when you get hot, Texas had to play with their backs against the walls just to get in, going back and forth with Houston and trying to see who was going to win the division and everything. And so, but nobody thought they would go into Minute Maid and win Game 6 and 7, especially with the way how dominant the Astros bats were in games 3, 4, and 5 in Arlington. But like I said, for me, the rotation lined up better for them on those last couple of games, and we saw a team go out and get big hits when they need, and Garcia really propelled that team to an outstanding victory. The Diamondbacks, like you said, really surprising. The Dodgers were the best team in the National League all year. The Phillies were really good. The Braves were outstanding all year, but here we are looking at the Diamondbacks, and so it's all a matter of timing. And we see this. We see two teams that got hot when they needed to, with their backs up against the wall. The Diamondbacks almost fell into the playoffs. A couple of things happened to them, but now they picked themselves off the ground and went out and played some really good ball and were able to hold Bryce Harper and that vaunted Phillies offense down when they needed, and their bullpen was really outstanding down the stretch.
Absolutely. So, what's your assessment on that?
My assessment is first the Diamondbacks. They are that little brother that just keeps nagging at you, and they finally grew into their own. And it also proves that records and payroll doesn't mean a thing.
Right.
Okay.
Ask the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. And what a great job Terry Lovallo has done in using his bullpen. In that final game against Philly, I think he used 5 relievers, and they couldn't get anything. The Phillies couldn't get anything off of them. In terms of the Rangers had a great regular season. They kind of faltered toward the end, and that's how Houston eventually winning the American League West. But they quickly turned it around. Their pitching was outstanding, and except for Scherzer, but hopefully he'll return to form here in the World Series. And again, Garcia was just hitting lights out. So it's again, as Coach said, it's all about timing. And this is the time of the year where you need to rise, where the cream rises to the crop,
Right.
to the top. And so, and both teams have done that. And this is going to be a great series. It's a evenly matched series.
Absolutely.
It's going 7 games. I mean, I cannot pick them by any stretch because both of them are very good. Both of them are unpredictable. So this is going 7 games, and this is great.
Absolutely. And the other thing that they have in common is 2 years ago, both teams had lost over 100 games.
Yes.
Arizona was 52 and 110, and Texas was 60 and 102. And so they progressively got better and better. The next year, Arizona was 74-88. Texas was 68 and 94, and then they jumped up to the records that they had this year. Saying that, the Kansas City Royals are kind of in the same boat.
Yes.
But how do they up their game to get to where they're at?
As you and I talked about on my podcast this week, it's all about the scouting and development department. You have to scout good players, and then you have to develop them. You just can't draft guys, have them play in the minors for a year, and bring them to the majors. You have to really develop them until they get there. And I know it may take a couple of years, but it is worth the time.
Absolutely. And, Coach, what's your assessment on that?
Well, the first thing is obviously I have an inside track on it, being part of the scouting department. We do need to make some smart acquisitions when it comes to our off season and find ways to, as he said, develop our younger players. Some of the guys we did press them into service at the major league level. In trying to find out who the guys that were ready to play. But it's going to come down to what we're able to do pitching-wise, our ability to get somebody who can be a frontline starter. We had a great acquisition in Cole Reagans. Cole Reagans, for the last 6 weeks of the season, was arguably the best pitcher in baseball. And so he was able to go out there, and that was a deal that we were able to make with the Rangers. We're going to have to make another deal at some point in time in this offseason. We're going to have to really be important and then continue, as he said, developing our young guys through the draft and make sure that we can find a couple of impact bats like Bobby Witt, like Mikael Garcia. I think our left side is solidified. Hopefully, Vinny Pasquantino will be healthy this year, and we can get Vinny back out on the field at first base. And then, obviously, we found a gem this year in Freddie Fermin, who was able to probably save a couple of years on Salvi's career. But we've also got to be very creative in our player acquisition, and sometimes that means you have to give up value to gain value and to be resourceful with that. And I think when you look at the Rangers, when you look at the Diamondbacks, that's what you see in being able to turn it around efficiently. They're not playing with a bunch of guys that are draft picks.
Right.
They're playing with some draft picks, but also key player acquisitions when you have to go in, evaluate your system as a whole, and then determine where are we and where's our biggest gaping hole and where can we find value in that. So this year we were able to take an Aroldis Chapman and turn his value into us a frontline starter. What we need now is somebody to come in and challenge Cole Reagans for that number one spot. If Cole Reagans is your number two, then we just got better as a team.
Oh, absolutely.
If Brady Singer is a 3 or a 4, then we just got better as a team. And those are the things that we have to do to be successful, not only in our amateur scouting, but in our pro scouting as well. And then we also had a first-year manager last year. His ability to now go out and to evaluate his players, to motivate his players, and to make all the right decisions. When I look at the World Series, I see two old-school managers, Bochy in particular, who are still not afraid to go with gut feelings. We live in a high-tech, high-advancing analytic age, but Bochy still, here's a gut feeling, and I'm not afraid to go with that gut feeling.
And Bochy has a few titles under his belt.
Absolutely.
So that if there's anything in terms of an advantage, that's it right there.
Absolutely.
So, saying that, so for the Royals off season, is it more important for them to pick up free agents or to make trades?
Well, I think it's both. It's not one without the other. We can't spend a whole lot of money on just going and trying to acquire free agents. But when you find value in trades, I think those things give themselves an opportunity for both teams to be successful. Everybody is going to go into the offseason with some type of need or an area that they feel like they want to get better. And so you've got to just look at where is our value or where is our surplus, and then use that surplus to help a weakness. And so I think creative trades help us a lot more, but there are some guys that you're looking for, guys that are bounce back guys that have a track record of being successful but maybe had an injury, and now they're looking for an opportunity to get back up and down, kind of like Chapman was last offseason. People had given up on Chapman, and, he'd had some internal problems, some domestic problems. It was a high risk for us to take on him, but it became a high reward for us.
Absolutely. So, saying that, who do you have in the World Series?
I've got the Rangers, and as we were just talking about the value that that Bochy brings to the table, and I trust the Rangers starting pitching just a little bit more, and we'll see if Garcia and company Bellinger can stay hot.
Do they go 7 or less?
I'm going Rangers in 6.
Rangers in 6. Who do you have in 7?
Because I think Bruce Bochy is the deciding factor, I'm going with Rangers in 7.
And I agree with you guys. I'm going with the Rangers in 7 too. So this should be a really good series. And what makes me even more happier, the Phillies are not in it. So, and it just showed, everybody talked about how great Bryce Harper was, but when it really came down to him performing and to be a George Brett type player, he didn't show up at all. And so that's part of the reason why I still don't think he's one of the greatest. I think he's a very, very, very good player, but I think he's just a high dollar player. That's it.
Yeah, the 3 home run hitters for the Phillies, they kind of lost it in the last couple of games. Again, when they were needed, they were shut out.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're going to skip from baseball and we're going to go into the NFL. And so last week, the Chiefs came in and they did what they needed to do. Except for the ironic thing is still the defense is still playing great. In fact, they are one of 5 teams in the NFL that is in the top 10 in scoring offense and scoring defense. And the other 4 is San Francisco, Dallas, Baltimore, and the Buffalo Bills. So they're playing great, but now they lose Nick Bolton for could be up to the playoffs. How much of an effect does that have?
I think it has a huge effect, his ability to make plays and make plays in space and plays in a pile, so to speak. And then he always seems to make plays at the right time. I think it certainly affects it. But the defense still is going to revolve around what the guys up front can do. Many times the Chiefs, because of their prolific offense, find themselves leading games, and so that gives your guys up front a chance to be aggressive and pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. And their secondary continues to improve with the amount of experience that these young men have gained over the last 2 years. And so I don't see this being as big of a detriment as it would be if Jones were one of the guys up front, but they are going to miss him.
Absolutely. Well, the one thing that I know which has made Brett Veach a great general manager is the ability to pick up players. Now, on the other hand, it was a small surprise. Everybody was thinking Frank Clark, after he got dropped by Denver, was going to get picked up by Kansas City. He didn't. Mike Pennell is the guy that they picked up, which is more of a defensive lineman instead of the defensive end that Frank Clark is, and then he ended up going to Seattle.
Mm-hmm. So. And not surprised, really, not surprised. It would have been good to have him, without a doubt, but it wasn't necessary, and I think that was good to place somebody on the practice squad just in case there was an injury. Charles Omenihu had a great game on Sunday after not playing for 6 weeks, and he came in, he made some plays. In terms of Bolton being out, Drew Tranquil has stepped in quite well while Bolton has been away. So, again, I don't see much drop-off, but don't be surprised if the Chiefs bring in somebody via trade before the trading deadline on Halloween.
Gotcha. So
here's the question I always ask, though.
Okay.
When you speak about the potential of Frank Clark coming back, who has ever left via free agency, then wind up going back to their old team and it ends well.
Well, right now, Hardman did a good job.
Again, they made a trade to get him,
Right.
but the jury's still out. He didn't leave under the same circumstances that Clark.
True.
Yep.
Very
Right.
true.
And just the tension that was surrounding
Right.
Clark versus McCall, right? I just think it would have been bad opportunity. It was the same thing I was saying about the Cowboys when Denver let Randy Gregory go. No.
Right.
He's not going to bring anything quality to that locker room. Let him go get his herbs and berries somewhere else. He chased that money out in Denver because it's also a cannabis open state.
Yep.
Let him stay out there.
So now he's in San Francisco, and they are not a cannabis state at all, are they?
No.
No. So now he
But
has to struggle.
San Francisco is a whole different
That's
story.
a whole different city.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to talk a little bit about the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins got beat up by the Philadelphia Phillies. We were talking baseball. Philadelphia Eagles. And the one thing that the Eagles did was they just flat out bullied the Miami Dolphins. Their front line just destroyed Tua and the running backs, and even to a point shut down the wide receivers. Tyreek Hill had a lot of catches, but he didn't have a lot of yards. He was under 100 yards. And so I was doing this comparison. And I've lost it. So with the St. Louis Rams from the 1999 season, the greatest show on turf. And so the turf they only lost 3 games, but 2 of the games were in week 8, week 9 against the Tennessee Titans, who were 6-1 at the time, and the Detroit Lions, who were 6-2 at the time. They ended up winning the Super Bowl, but a lot of people was saying that they were beaten up on the weaker teams, but they were struggling against the better teams. Do you see the Miami Dolphins in that same realm, and are they unfairly being called pretenders instead of contenders?
I don't call them a pretender, but the 2 games that they've lost, we find similarities, and teams are able to go out and be physical with them. And so I think that's the biggest challenge for them, is to find a way to be physical, especially when you play games late in the year and the weather is not favorable as it is in Miami. They may be the fastest team in the league, bar none, right? They could run 4 guys out there that could be a 4x1 that would probably challenge the Jamaicans. And so they have a lot of speed. But the NFL, despite its rule changes, is still a very physical game. And then when you can impose your will on another team, we find them struggling a little bit with that. The one thing that the Rams people forget they could do during that time was when they needed to lean on the running game and Marshall Faulk, they could. They had some big guys up front that gave not only Warner time, but they were able to do some things with Marshall Faulk, not only in the running game, and just as soon as you tried to handle him that way, they could then split him out and they could do so many things. What happened when they finally got beat in the Super Bowl? A team that was able to defensively be physical with them and slow the game down. And so that's still part of what you're dealing with the Dolphins. Is here you can go out there and put 70 up, but if another team puts you in a boxing match where you've got to fight inside, they're not very good at fighting inside.
Absolutely. So what do you say about that?
I pretty much agree with the coach. Again, like he said, they definitely have a wide receiver core that is a Olympic style group of people. But again, if the defensive backs are physical with them at the line of scrimmage, and if the defense set up as they were in their last game against Philadelphia, they could get the intermediate routes, but they wouldn't let them go deep. That is a blow to the Dolphins' offense. So I think it was a great defensive scheme by Philadelphia that kept them under wraps.
Absolutely. And I think also part of that, too, when you go back and look at that game, there was a discipline issue with the Dolphins, and you can find that in both of those games. In the game against Philadelphia, they had 10 penalties. The Eagles had 0.
Yeah, that's a rarity. I don't know when is the last time there was 10-0 on that part.
Right.
But saying that, I know that their defense has been a little decimated with injuries, but Ramsey should be coming back, and so is Howard, the defensive lineman. So that may help them in their challenge, because in 2 weeks they play Kansas City, and I think that will be the barometer on seeing how well Kansas City is and how well Miami is.
Well, as they say, styles make fights. I think that style of fight will be more to their liking with Kansas City, where they have to get out and try to make a track meet out of it. So the teams that, like I say, bring a little bit more physicality to them, and that is in no way saying that the Chiefs are not physical, but we know what they're going to do. They're going to put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hand. The Eagles can quickly go to a power running game and bring about problems, right? Josh Allen is a problem in the running game when you play them, and they're very good defensively as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think it could be a big shootout. I obviously would still favor the Chiefs, because I'll take quarterback play of Mahomes over Tua any day of the week, just because of who Mahomes is.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we are at halftime on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will go into the predictions for this week and then a little bit about Marvin's podcast. So we will be back shortly on KUAW. Okay, we are back on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. The awesome voice, Coach 24. Our guest, Marvin Durant, my apologies, and George Walker behind the scenes. So we are going to get into Thursday night football. We've got two teams that really they threw an egg this past Sunday. Tampa Bay just totally fell on their face against Detroit, and then Buffalo, my apologies, because I need my glasses on. Buffalo, they lose to New England to give New England coach Bill Belichick his 300 win. Congratulations, coach, on that. But saying that, you've got two different teams. You've got one team that does run the ball pretty good versus a team who can barely run the ball very well.
Yeah, I'll go with the Bills in this game. It's a bounce-back game for them. Tampa's, I think still trying to find an identity. I'm not even sure that they've settled that Baker being their long-term quarterback.
Well, I think Baker is the long-term quarterback for the Buccaneers. The game is Buffalo is a 9.5-point favorite. I think that's way too much. The reason why I say that because Buffalo is very inconsistent. Josh Allen, way too many turnovers. Yeah. He tries to do too much, and if he would just settle down and basically look for Stephon Diggs every other play, I think he will be fine. But I'm going with Buffalo in this game, but it won't be a 9.5-point spread.
I totally agree. Now, saying that, Josh Allen is the best in the Super Bowl area after a loss. He's 20-5. And he's going to be home. The weather's going to be nice. I guess one of the radio or TV personalities on NFL Network was out there saying how enjoyable it was. But saying that, I think Tampa Bay is going to struggle. I thought that they were playing well. Their defense is good, but their running game is horrible. And as you get, and I know they're in Tampa, they're the warm weather, but they're going to play a lot of teams in cold weather. You got to have a running game in cold weather, and they do not have one. I have 24-17 Buffalo over Tampa Bay. Now, the game of the top two picks of this last draft, Houston at Carolina. Houston is allowing 18.8 points a game, whereas the last three seasons they were giving up 26.7 points per game. And Stroud is outplaying Young big time. And I know that Carolina just had their bye and everything else, but this is the second time that they are 0-6. The other year was 1998.
I'll go with the Texans. There's just a lot more stability at the quarterback position in C.J. Stroud, who, as you and I talked about it last year, I told you I would have taken him over Bryce Young. With all due respect to Bryce Young, I just personally don't like little quarterbacks. And I think also the culture that DeMeco Ryans has brought to Houston, coupled with the fact that they're not in a very tough division, is going to help the Texans get it turned around a lot quicker than it will be in Carolina.
Absolutely.
And DeMarco is a defensive-minded coach, so thus those numbers that you gave us, that would be the reason why there's a stronger defensive preference and structure there. Again, C.J. Stroud has done excellent. He has done very well, and I'm sure Carolina's scratching their head right now that maybe we picked the wrong guy. But there's a lot of issues in Carolina. Frank Reich, the head coach, used to call the plays. Now he's giving those play calling duties over to his offensive coordinator, and hopefully things might change. I don't know, but that offensive line needs to be better because Bryce is running for his life every game.
Absolutely. So you've got Houston too?
Yes.
Okay, and I've got Houston 27-17. Now, the Rams versus Dallas. Dallas's first game since the San Francisco debacle.
No,
Not.
they played the Chargers. After
Oh,
San
that's right.
Francisco.
My mistake. Yes, they played the Chargers. Now they're on the break. They have a 10-game home winning streak, which is the longest winning streak in the NFL right now. The Rams, you don't know what you get out of them. I know KUAW is great catching the ball, but he's not the only player.
Yeah, obviously I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. My only partial drawback is Matthew Stafford has had historically good games against Dallas. Even when Dallas has beaten his team, he's historically had good games. And so Dallas is still a little banged up right now. And then the red zone offense needs to improve. I'm hoping that they will make a move at the trade deadline to help the red zone offense. But I do think they've been good coming off the bye in recent years. And so I'll again go with the Cowboys.
I think Jerry Jones needs to stop going on his radio show and saying what the offense should have done. I'm pretty sick and tired of Jerry and his comments about the offense. I know he is the general manager, and I know that he is the owner, but I think a lot of that is an issue with the team. But more importantly, this game, I think the Rams are unpredictable. In my mind, you just never know what's going to happen with them. I know Cooper Kupp is back. They have the great rookie going on right now, but Matthew Stafford is still not back to where he was a couple of years ago. I'm going with the Cowboys in this one.
Absolutely. Now, Minnesota at Green Bay. So on Monday night, Minnesota finally showed up and really played a good game against one of the best teams in the league. But here's their issue. They have 16 touchdowns passing and 0 rushing touchdowns. They are the only team in the NFL without a rushing touchdown, and they're the only team in NFL history with 16 passing touchdowns and 0 rushing touchdowns.
Now, didn't they have Dalvin Cook at one point in time?
They did.
There you go.
And then Green Bay, they are averaging 4.3 points in the first half. So they are the definition of a slow starter. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Packers. With the Vikings because of I think Monday night has a chance to kickstart them to at least win that division. We base a division on quarterback play many times, and I do think that Kirk Cousins has continued to play well, not spectacular, but well. Obviously, they're without Justin Jefferson for another few weeks at least, and so. But the Packers, they've got a lot going on. They're probably my most disappointing team this year. I thought that they would be better, that they would be able to allow their young quarterback to grow. They showed a running game, and now all of a sudden their running game does not exist. And so I'll go with the Vikings.
I think it was good to see Kirk Cousins win a primetime game. He had that monkey over his head for a long time. He plays just good enough to win. He's not one of the elite quarterbacks in the league, but he's a good game manager. Coach talked about Justin Jefferson not being there. Certainly that does hurt, but Addison had an outstanding game on Monday night. So I think, they don't drop off much there. In terms of Green Bay, Jordan Love basically is a rookie. I know he's been sitting on the bench for 3 years or whatever, but he's a rookie, and it's going to take time. And the Green Bay faithful need to understand he is not the second coming of Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre. I mean, they had 20 years of Hall of Fame caliber play at quarterback. Well, they don't have it now, and chances are they won't have it for a long time, if at all. So they just have to be patient. I think, they will nurture him, and they'll get better in a couple years. They're just going to have to take an L for 2, maybe 3 years. But I'm going with Minnesota in this game.
Absolutely. I've got Minnesota 2, 26-19. New Orleans at Indianapolis.
The Saints are going backwards, and I think the Colts are just kind of holding, their own. They're still trying to find a true identity, but I'm going to go with the Colts at home.
Absolutely.
Can this game be canceled by any chance? My God. Derek Carr has not been good, not very impressed. He was much better when he was with the Raiders. The Colts, Gardner Minshew doesn't play too bad. Again, he can hold his own. It's an even pick, and I'm going with the Colts.
And I have the Colts too. New England at Miami.
I'll look for the Dolphins to bounce back this week. I just don't have a whole lot of trust in the Patriots offense. Too inconsistent, and I think it's going to be hard for them to keep up with the fleet feet of Miami, regardless if Tyreek plays or not.
The Dolphins are a 9-point favorite. I think they will certainly cover that. Mac Jones is an embarrassment as far as I'm concerned. And this goes back to the Cam Newton days when they had Cam. They should have went with Cam, sat Mac, let him watch, and then bring him along. But they wanted to bring him along fast, and this is what you get. Dolphins are too fast, too powerful for the Patriots. The Dolphins will win.
I think Miami will come back after their loss last week. I've got Miami too. New York Jets at the New York Giants.
Jets. That's all I'm going to say about that game.
The Jets are playing better. Their quarterback's play has been more consistent, not nearly as good as he needs to be, but he is holding their own. And again, they have the defense to help them out. As far as the Giants, Tyrod Taylor again is holding the fort down. I know Saquon has had his health issues. I'm going with the Jets in this game.
Absolutely. I'm going to pick the Giants, and the reason why is I just think that they're going to win. I don't know why.
You just think if you roll the dice enough times, it's going to come up a 7.
That's exactly it.
And Daniel Jones ain't playing.
Yes, there you go.
Little known Black history fact: last week, Tyrod Taylor was the first African American quarterback to win a game for the Giants in nearly 100 years of football.
Yes, I heard.
Oh,
that.
wow!
Yes.
That is some history.
There's your little Black known history.
All right, so I'm sticking with Tyrod Taylor.
Go ahead, Tyrod.
Jacksonville at Pittsburgh.
I'm not buying Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett and all of that. I'm not, man. I'm more in on the Jaguars and what they're doing over there. I'm gonna go with the Jags. At the end of the day, I love Mike Tomlin and who he is and what he represents, and I think he'll find a way for them again not to have a losing season. But I'm going to go with the Jags.
Like the coach said, I'm not buying Pittsburgh. Jacksonville are a 2.5-point favorite. I think Jacksonville overall is having better play, and they certainly are in a division they can easily win. So I'm going with the Jaguars.
I am going with Pittsburgh, and the reason why is same as last week. I thought Pittsburgh had really no chance of winning, and they showed up and they kicked butt. And Mike Tomlin always have to give the benefit of the doubt. They could play Kansas City, and they would still find a way to at least make it very competitive to even win. But I got Pittsburgh for this. Atlanta at Tennessee.
It's the inconsistency of Atlanta's quarterback play with Desmond Ritter. But then again, the Titans have been all over the place. I'm going to give the home team the advantage in this game and go with the Titans.
Atlanta, I believe, is 4-3,
They
and
are.
how in the heck did they get there with Desmond Ritter? Both teams suck, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I'm gonna go with my gut. Neither team has a big spotlight on my radar, but I'm going with the home team, Tennessee.
I'm going with Tennessee too. Based on the fact Tennessee is at home and Vrabel is 5-0 after a bye. That's about roughly the only way. Philadelphia at Washington.
I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think there's a lot of problems in Washington, and one of them was they could not pull that game out last week. I think this is the swan song for both Ron Rivera and potentially Eric Bieniemy.
I don't think it's the swan song for Bieniemy, certainly for Ron Rivera. I guess my question is, why is Sam Howell the quarterback? I mean, Jacoby Brissett, if I'm not mistaken, is the backup there. Put him in there. I mean, he has plenty of experience on a variety teams, and he's never been that bad of a quarterback. So I don't know whether it's Sam Howell or Ron Rivera. I'm not going to blame Eric Bieniemy because this is what he was handed. So he's doing the best he can. I don't want to hear any crap about people saying, well, he's not with Andy Reid, so he's no good. No, I'm not going there. But in terms of the game prediction, I'm going with Philadelphia. No ifs, ands, and buts about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he's not a good coach outside of Andy Reid, but to me that was a poor decision of a place to land with no
Yeah, I
quarterback
agree.
play. Don't go to a place where there's no quarterback now or the quarterback of the future because you put yourself. My bigger problem with him this year is they've also had no running game.
Yeah.
And that's an area where he's special. He'll always have a job in this league, but he's not helping his opportunity to get a head coaching job. And Washington, for me, is just bearing that opportunity.
Yep. Cleveland at Seattle.
A tough game to pick, man. Browns have played better recently. They've played actually better without Deshaun Watson. And they're really good defensively, but I'm going to give the edge and home field advantage to the Seahawks and Geno and the stability he's brought to that franchise.
PJ Walker is starting once again for the Browns, and I don't know what the issue is with Deshaun Watson. He says he just doesn't feel right. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago they said he was medically cleared, but he didn't feel good. So, and they're not putting him on the IR. So everything is a week-to-week situation, and that's not a good thing. And we went through that here in Kansas City with Eric Berry for a while. It was always week to week. Be that as it may, Ford, the second string running back is injured. So Kareem Hunt will be the lead runner this year, and for the next game. So he's certainly no slouch. But again, I will, in the defense, Myles Garrett, definitely a candidate for defensive player of the year. I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to say the Browns are going to beat Seattle in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, I've got the Seahawks. Baltimore at Arizona.
Baltimore.
Baltimore. That's all we can say.
Yeah.
Kansas City at Denver.
Chiefs.
Chiefs will win this game. If we do win this game, and I think we will, it will be.
You really said that with a straight face. You said if. As raggedy as these Broncos and Russell Wilson and Sean Payton have been, the Chiefs have won 6 in a row.
I know.
And you said if.
Hey, isn't this show called Any Given Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Okay. When the Chiefs win 13-0, the Mahomes will beat Denver. So Chiefs are 7-point favorites. I think that's a little light. I think they're going to win by at least
20.
Yeah, I would say 15. I would say 15. Give me a 15-point spread.
I think this is Kansas City's trap game because they could be thinking about Miami, saying that they will win, but they could struggle because Denver has showed up the last 2 weeks. Kansas City, Cincinnati at San Francisco.
Man, if we was on TV, I'd say y'all trying to get ratings. Trying to make that a game. This should be a good game. 49ers back-to-back losses. Joe Burrow's starting to get healthy. Purdy hurt. All that said, I'm going to still take the 49ers at home.
I'm going with Cincinnati on the road because we're talking about Joe Burrow against Sam Darnold. Come on now.
Yep.
Sam Darnold couldn't play with the Jets. He couldn't play with Carolina. He's probably still seeing ghosts. I'm going with Cincinnati.
I'm going Cincinnati if Sam Darnold plays. I would pick San Francisco if Brock Purdy plays, so I'm picking Cincinnati.
If there was another team, I would agree with y'all. But how many different quarterbacks has San Francisco played and they've still won?
That's true. But
Right? It's a plug-and-play offense,
right.
and you still can argue that they got the best or not one of the best defenses in the league.
True. But they're also 0-36 when they are losing by 8 or more points in the fourth quarter under Kyle Shanahan.
Absolutely, right? Which they haven't been. How many of those would you say are at home?
That I don't know.
Right. So I hear y'all, and I certainly respect that. But they've been a plug and play situation, not asking the quarterback to do much. Even in the loss that they had at Cleveland, kicker makes the kick, they still win.
Right. You're right.
Right. They still win.
Absolutely.
Cincinnati's been really, really inconsistent, and I still don't think Joe Burrow is healthy.
I think he is healthier.
He's
due to
healthier.
the bye
Healthier.
week, by the bye week.
Yeah.
Right.
But not he's not at 100%.
And I think that pass rush is going to create a problem for him.
Right. Well, yeah, because you still got Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
Saying that. Chicago at L.A. Chargers. That's the Sunday night game.
Wow, we couldn't get a better Sunday night game, could we? I'm the other bandwagon that I'm not on anymore is the Justin Herbert bandwagon. Everybody wants to make him, anointed him a top 3 to top 5 quarterback, and really, to me, he's stayed the same, and he hadn't elevated the level of play of anybody around him. That said, there's no way I can trust the Bears in that roller coaster that they have there, and I'll go with the Chargers.
NBC, please flex this game. Please. My goodness. I am so happy that there is a game on NBA TV on Sunday, the Spurs and the Clippers. I will be watching that. I'm not watching this mess. Brandon Staley will be gone by the end of the year. He has to. He just has to. He is horrible. Not Clippers. The Chargers are 8.5-point favorites. Both teams are so bad simply because they're at home and they have no fan base. I'll just give it to the Chargers.
Okay. I am picking Chicago. because I know this.
You're the only one.
I know the backup name. I kept saying
I'm glad you
Chicago's
do.
backup. It's Tyson Bagent, and I hear some noise. Anyway, Tyson Bagent, the only quarterback in Division II that won his first start since 1950. I think he's going to do it again. And Chargers don't have a home game. They are playing 17 road games.
You're right.
The Chicago Bears, Vegas, and Detroit at Detroit Monday night.
Right. Detroit has to bounce back, and there's still just a lot going on in Raider Nation, and so I'll go with the Lions on that.
Yeah, Detroit's going to bite some kneecaps off. No problem there. They will defeat the Raiders.
Okay, we got our picks in, and we're running out of time, but I still want to give you an opportunity to pinch your podcast before our best segment of the show.
Okay, thank you very much. I currently host a podcast on Spotify. It is called On the Record. We publish it every Tuesday. For the most part, we talk sports, but we get into other things. Coming up this week, we will be talking NBA basketball with our good friend Carlos Johnson. Also, we'll be talking comedy with another good friend of ours, D.L. Marshall. And we'll have my rants of the week. I go into politics. I go into social issues. I've been on a big rant about the Speaker of the House thing, which is driving me absolutely nuts. And I hate when people try to criticize people who are doing play-by-play. Guys, that is not easy. You have done it. I have done it. It's not easy. If you haven't done it, sit down and shut up. But that's coming up on the next episode. But On the Record, every Tuesday on Spotify. Please listen.
Absolutely. So now we are to the best segment of our show, Penny for Your Thoughts.
Today we want to acknowledge the legacy of over 55 years in the game of baseball to Johnny B. Baker Jr., also known as Dusty, a champion, a winner of over 2,000 managerial games, an all-star player, but he's also our connection from the historic avenue of the Negro Leagues all the way into the modern game. Dusty made his appearance in 1968 with the Atlanta Braves under the tutelage of Hank Aaron. Dusty Baker was there when Hank Aaron hit his 715th home run. He was on deck with that. Much of what he has accomplished as a manager is in tribute to Hank Aaron, because that's who he said he learned so much. 10 first-place finishes, 13 playoff appearances. He took 5 different teams to the playoffs, and we know that he won his World Series last year with the Houston, but just one of the great guys who took the experience of being a 19-year-old major leaguer and being in the presence of Hank Aaron and watching Hank go through what he went through with the home run chase and being able to lean on that and bring the Astros out of the sign stealing scandal. I was one who was critical when the Astros hired him, but he was the right man for the job. Dusty Baker, thank you for 55 years of being the right man for baseball.
Salute to him.
Yes.
And with that, that ends a phenomenal show that we've had. Marvin Durant, thank you for coming to
My
our
pleasure.
show. My brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny, thank you again for an amazing show. And Mr. George Walker, DJ Scatter, for running the show and keeping us going well. So I am Brian Cressy, Awesome Voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal sports weekend.